Welcome back to episode 49 of the Disorganized Wizard Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Adam.
Hi.
And Cam.
Hey.
And we're a group of Ottawa-based players that play just about anything and everything we can qualify for. We talk about decks, tournaments, stories, and just about anything to help you and ourselves to get better at Magic.
Yeah, hopefully.
Pro Tour weekend's in the books. Mm-hmm. Pretty exciting weekend.
I watched essentially all of it. I thought it was awesome.
It was perfect for us being nocturnal to just... we woke up, the Pro Tour started, went to sleep when it ended.
It worked out pretty well for me because I'd get home from work at early in the morning and I just turn the Pro Tour on and get to watch like all the standard coverage.
Yeah, you'd only miss draft. Yeah.
So it was pretty good. I didn't sleep like much at all the weekend, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine. It was good though.
Yeah, I would wake up at like 2 p.m., go to the gym, work out, like come home, eat, and then be like, I guess it's time to watch the Pro Tour. It's like, and, instead of like whatever it is I do all night and waste time. But
yeah.
I'm like awaiting commentary on my like dissertation, which I already got one of my committee members' comments back, which is crazy that it was that fast.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, this is great, Adam. Like, well, I was like, oh, God, I did not expect that. So, yeah, pretty good news as far as that goes. Nice. So it looks like my time in Nova Scotia wasn't spent in vain, which is good to know. So, like, it's weird, though, because normally I've, like, spent the last couple of years feeling, like, really guilty all the time for being so bad about finishing my dissertation and not being able to, concentrate and focus on finishing it. Like, it's a lot of work, obviously, and I'm, like, I'm going to finish under the national average for the time it takes people, but I did slack off a lot. Like, I basically took a year to like qualify for the Pro Tour and like play Magic full time. Like when I was playing, right? Like I'm traveling to Grand Prix. I like did it during my PhD. I like used like a whole year to just like play Magic professionally, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'd always feel guilty like when Pro Tours would roll around. Like, oh man, I can't believe I'm about to spend like 3 days in a row just like doing nothing, like just watching people play Magic for like 8 to 10 hours and just doing literally no work. And I can't believe I'm going to waste that much time doing it. And I used to feel guilty, but this was the Pro Tour where I was like, oh my God, like I can just watch this guilt-free. It's on the horrible time schedule that I already exist on because it's in Japan.
See, they've always, for the past like 5 years, they've always like, I've always had like an exam the weekend after I like should be studying or doing some kind of schoolwork. And this is the first time where I'm just like, I just have to work. I don't have to worry about school.
Yeah.
And so same thing.
It's so liberating. Like it's just eating food and like relaxing, just enjoying it. I'm like, oh, this is great. I caught up on it though on the Sunday. I skipped the top 8 Saturday night because I went out to like, there was like a punk fest here locally that I went to. But yeah, like I caught up on it. So I watched like every part of the Pro Tour and did something else. Yeah, with the guilt-free, it was great.
I was so tired. I ended up falling asleep during the top 4. And then the next day I woke up and rewatched everything I missed.
Yeah.
But it was good.
It was sweet to watch all of it. And I thought it was like a good Pro Tour. Like it was fun to watch. I thought the games were good. I thought Limited was good. Cam and I basically watched all of it, I think, right?
Yeah, I watched most of the standard at our place, like live. And then I was at our friend Ryan's house watching the top 8. And we watched all the quarterfinals. And then everybody else, I don't know why, they got tired because it was like 3 a.m. It was middle of the day. But for some reason, they're tired. And I'd been like drinking all night. So I'm like kind of drunk sitting on his couch and like everyone else is gone. And he's like, Cam, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. I'm like, no, I got to watch the top 4. But he kicked me out and I went home.
Oh. Yeah. I remember I was like at one point drunkenly messaged like, I'm coming over like to Ryan too. And because
you never showed up.
Well, because I stayed at, anyway. I didn't go home.
Family show.
I didn't go home. But like, So
Right. So
punk kids.
Last week on the podcast, we made predictions on how diverse the top 8 would be. And we were all wrong.
You were kind of right. You did say that you correctly did say you guys are underestimating mono red. You like fervently, no pun intended, declared that we were very much and underwhelmingly like missing how powerful mono red was. And you said like, I think it's very, very good and I wouldn't be surprised if it crushes. So like, I got to give you props on that. You were right. And
thank you.
You normally are. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't listen.
Yeah. Like I think you were barely right. Like, I don't think we overwhelmingly underestimated it because like I was.
I thought it wasn't going to be good at all.
I don't remember.
You
what I
overwhelmingly
said,
underestimated it, but like
I did say it was going to be good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it do very well.
6 out of 8 is a lot, but like if you guys watched the Pro Tour, there was a match where Seth Manfield was playing mono red against a ramp deck, and he made top 8 by like a top deck. He drew a Hazaret exactly the turn he needed it, and like
he was dead. Yeah.
Right, and had that card been anything else, then like ramp would have been in the top 8, and only would have been 5 out of 6. So like,
and then Adam would have been right on his prediction.
Yeah.
So like, it dominated the top 8, but like barely.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like, it was also just really represented at the Pro Tour. It was the most played deck. Like,
it was a crazy. It was
like 25%.
Yeah, 25% of day one. That's like
an enormous. That's what Marvel was. You know what I'm saying? Like for percentage, but the difference, and like we're gonna talk about this like later, I guess, is that mono red's beatable and not like horrible to play against. But like, and also there were games where like mono red was close. Yeah, like you know, and also if you look at the like 8 and 9 win deck lists, there are so many that were so close, and like various players missed out on top 8 due to their limited record. You know what I mean? Like Zombies and Green Black Energy performed very well at the Pro Tour. Like, you know.
Yeah, we did see there was a lot of variation among mono red decks, whether like Sam Black was playing Cartouche 21 lands. There's a lot of decks that were playing 23 lands and like burn spells in the main deck. And then Paulo's deck, which won the whole thing, was playing no burn spells in the main deck, just Abrades and other card. I can't remember.
Collective Defiance?
No, he didn't play Collective Defiance.
Abrade and...
Let me find it. I have his article pulled up right here. Abrade and Shock.
Yeah, he was playing one.
Yeah, he's just playing Shock.
Yeah, they're a bunch playing Shock. Just for like the mirror, also face, also it's good against Constrictor, like energy decks as long as it's not Constrictor. Like it kills Longtusk Cup, Glint Sleeve Siphoner.
Yeah,
like it kills a lot of important 2-drops.
Yeah, but he didn't play any Collective Defiance. He didn't play any Incendiary Flow. No Soulscar Mage, and
I think that's
lands.
Correct.
24 lands, which I think all of the other decks kind of probably figured out throughout the Pro Tour that they just wanted more lands because kind of the story of Standard at this Pro Tour was how good Hazaret was.
Yeah, like Hazaret just dominated.
Yeah, and after reading a bunch of articles on Mono Red, they kind of all come to the same conclusion that, you know, all the drawing extra lands is totally fine when you're playing Hazaret. Like they want to have cards
you need to. In fact, away. You need to because you need to just dump your hand. Yeah, and if you're stuck on 2 lands, you're going to get stuck with multiple 2 and 3 drops in your hand. So Hazaret, by the time you draw your 4th land, you still have a couple 2 and 3 drops in your hand, right? If you miss lands and had some and you stumbled on lands, so like you can't afford to, right? Like
and even on top of that, like activating Ramanap Runes is a 5-drop.
Right.
Internalizing Inertia Kenra is a 6-drop.
Exactly. Yeah. And like a lot of these mono red decks are going bigger with their sideboards with like more Chandras and Glorybringers. Like playing 24 lands, I think, is where most of the mono red decks will probably go to.
Yeah, I think if you're playing mono red, you don't want to play Soulscar Mage.
No.
And you don't, because that's why Paulo wasn't playing any, right? Like 4 Shocks, 4 Braids, like it's not enough.
Yeah.
And also, you want the 24 lands. Like you just, this is like going forward, if you're like listening to this and you're playing mono red, like you probably want a higher land count. Although the only 10-0 standard deck list at the Pro Tour was playing 22 land and Skullscar Mages. And it was the only deck to 10-0 the standard portion. He didn't top 8. But yeah, who knows? Like, I mean, like there are some variants in aggro decks anyway where you're going to get wins that, you know, like it has some free wins and stuff. But yeah. I mean, and they talked about it nonstop on coverage. Like the real reason this deck's so good is Ramunap Ruins. So like, you need to play more lands then. Like it's better, right, to play more lands because your lands kill them.
I think the consensus is that you want 24 lands. Soulscar Mage though, like one deck doing what, like I guess you'd have to look at the rest of the standard record. Like where else did Soulscar Mage land? Like was that just an outlier?
Yeah, I think it is. Like if you look at a lot of people either weren't playing them or playing less copies. I don't think that you need it, and I don't think.
Although it could have just been that like Soulscar Mage performed particularly well in this meta because if you're playing a lot of red mirrors, that gives that's like the one way that a red deck can kill opposing Hazarets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean that killing Hazaret is the reason, for example, like the Zombies deck did so well
and black green because they have access to Grasp of Darkness
and Dark Salvation.
True,
right? Like they can have 8 copies of these cards that kill Hazaret. right? And also Glorybringer, right? Like they have all these answers and they can clog up the board really well. Like this is why throughout the Pro Tour they'd say like, oh, Mono Red doesn't want to play against zombies, right? So I don't know how Mono Red can beat zombies. I'm not sure that its configuration is really capable of doing it consistently because I think that zombies just has a good matchup. Like Phil's been playing it, like who's been a guest on the show a few times, and he's like I lost like once since the weekend. Like he played in the Tower Open on Saturday.
Yeah, he just like XO'd everybody.
Yeah, he just like went undefeated in draft and standard, like playing zombies.
Because at the ends of rounds 4, 5, 6, and 8, or 6 and 7, they would put up the standings at the Tower Open. And every single time, Phil would be like, check out that match win percentage. And it's like 100% game win, 100% match win, like top of the standings. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was just laughing.
Just 2-0ing everybody all day.
Yeah, he was like chatting with me. He's like 6-0, 12-0 in games. He's like easy. Just playing zombies. And he was playing against Mono Red a bunch. And he was like, this matchup is a joke. And actually, if you look at the most recent like Magic Online, which is always kind of ahead, actually, like it's always the most advanced like meta. If you look at that PTQ from Sunday during the day, which is like the same weekend of the Pro Tour, but kind of just after it ends from the top 8 due to it being in Japan, there were 0 copies of red in the top 8.
Oh yeah, it was all mono black zombies. There was 2 green red Rams decks and a black green deck, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Even in the top 16, there was only 1 mono red, and I think it was 15th or 16th place.
Well, the zombies deck.
I think it was Cake Taro. She's like a streamer actually on Twitch. She does like alters on Twitch.
Oh, cool.
She got like 15th playing mono red.
So like those zombie decks in that BTQ, they were featuring Kalidas main deck, right?
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, that's kind of where all of them are going towards now.
Yeah, already everybody's just like, all right, well, let's just hate out red. So
yeah, I think that's why I enjoyed this Pro Tour and didn't have the same, like fear. I think all of us, like I think every player actually should be happy that mono red is a viable deck. And I said this to Cam like immediately on day 1 after Pro Tour. I was like, thank the Lord, like that. This is the deck keeping everyone in check, right? Like the fun police is like mono red because it's not Marvel, it's not Saheeli.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like, and we haven't had mono red being the fun police in forever.
Yeah, but that's good because mono red's beatable.
Yeah.
Like it's not a completely unbeatable strategy. It's not doing something so unfair that you can't interact with it.
Yeah, this
meta
game can evolve as opposed to past ones where we've seen just the one deck who is the fun police. It stays stagnant, which has happened the past couple standard seasons.
Yeah, we've seen it the last 3 or 4 Pro Tours actually. Like just the metagame completely defined and locked and stagnant immediately. Yeah. Whereas this, I think this is a good thing. I think that like 6 copies of red in the top 8 is a positive thing because like you can beat this deck and immediately the results from the online PTQs and the people playing in these aren't bad players, right? Like do you immediately see that the metagame is changing?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it was really good and the games were interesting to watch. Like they weren't just, red decks just curving out and killing everyone. Like that happened, obviously. But I thought the games were very interesting to watch, and
because it's like
watching the Pro Tour this
onboard combat, like decisions whether, for example, like Cam, you were talking about like on crop crasher, right? Like,
yeah, the red mirrors in particular were very interesting, and there was a couple games I remember watching, and like they play an on crop crasher on 3, and then you're like, all right, they exert so that like their guy can't block, they get in for 5, the next turn they can attack for another 2 with their like thing, and then it was like Seth Manfield or someone, they just don't exert. And they let their opponent take the trade, and then like it ends up being more damage because of like some card they had in their hand or like
there's just like a lot of decisions because cards are modal, right? Like because
and so there was a lot of like non-obvious decisions that ended up being optimal. And this was actually something that Phil mentioned because he played the mono red deck once or twice before switching to zombies, and I think he went like 2-2. Like he didn't do very well, but he said that he wasn't doing well because there was a lot of non-obvious things that pushed through more damage that he wasn't doing, trying to like preserve his creatures or like not making quote unquote bad attacks that would deal like an extra 2 damage that turn. And like you really need to know how to force through that damage with this deck apparently.
Well, yeah, especially if you're playing Ramunap Ruins, right? Like getting just damaged through will result in put you like how many times do you see this throughout the Pro Tour weekend where like they didn't have lethal, but they could put their opponent in a spot where like multiple top decks are lethal. Right? Like so many times you'd see like a player make an attack that put their opponent to 2.
Right.
That's like the critical number. And they throw away all their creatures to do it and just have an empty board, but they're at like 18 and their opponent has like a 3/3 but they're at 2. So now they're like, okay, well, a top deck Chandra does you, like a Shock, a Ramunap Ruins, like all these top decks just kill you. So like,
yeah, that happened. I noticed that a lot.
Yeah, it happened.
So, yeah,
it happened nonstop throughout the weekend.
They got them so low. Like almost every card they can draw just immediately wins the game for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, so you'd see this, nonstop throughout the weekend. Like players they'd make these like bad attacks, but like mostly because their top decks are all able to deal 2 to 3 damage. Like a top deck on Crop Crasher out of nowhere, like a Hazard was going to deal way more, but right. So they'd put themselves in positions where, because their whole deck is like able to push through a little bit more damage, even their lands.
Oh yeah, the lands is why this deck is so good.
Yeah, it's the reason it's viable.
It gives the deck so, like I talked about this last weekend too, like their mana base does 20 damage.
Yeah. You said it on the podcast.
It just gives their deck so much more reach. And like mono red decks historically don't have that kind of reach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, like, and we've said this like way back, like it was during like the spoiler season, we were talking about like whether Hostile Desert would be playable or not. We were joking like, yeah, well, like having creature lands or lands that do stuff are the reason aggro decks do well, right? And they have one in Ramunap Ruins, like,
yeah,
because the Hostile Desert's too much work, and like we kind of like we're aware that it's way too much work. But Ramunap, isn't.
No,
right? Like it's just free.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, sure, maybe you pay 1 life here and there, but
so it's not that much of a cost in that strategy.
Yeah,
at all.
So like, yeah, like if you're playing mono red, like, you just need to be cognizant of the fact that there are times where it's going to seem like you're making a bad attack, right? But really, like if you can just get your opponent to 2 and put yourself in a position to top deck, but you need to, in those situations, it's about identifying like, well, I'm not going to have any better attacks over the next coming turns. You know what I mean? Like over the next 3 turns, like my attacks will get worse, but I can go now to put them in a position where like 8 top decks kill them, like 8 different cards.
Yeah, and if you try and like preserve your creatures, so that like, oh, maybe I'll draw another on-crop crasher and then my attacks will be better again. Like you'll end up putting yourself in a position where your attacks probably get worse and then your top decks aren't good enough.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I thought you saw a lot of cool play in that sense in mono red throughout the weekend, I thought, where people realized that, right? Like good, obviously there's very good players. Like this was a pro tour too, like a stacked top 8, and like, you know, in some ways, Paulo winning, like, that guy's nuts.
Yeah, second Pro Tour win, 12th top 8.
Yeah, I said to Pete, it's also funny because at one point on day 1 when he was 6-0, I said to our other roommate, like Paulo's definitely going to top 8. There's no way he like 6-0 starts and like blows it, because that means his standard deck is good and he knows the like limited format. There's no way he just gets unlucky and loses like 5. Yeah. He's going to go like either X2 or X3, He's not going to lose 4. There's just no way. Not when he's running that hot. And then end of day, he's 8-0 at the end of day 1. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, he's going to be able to go 4-4 tomorrow.
Yeah, like, he's a lock now.
He's a lock.
Even our friend Ben called it, because like when we were all sitting around watching top 8, it was like the first or second quarterfinals that we were watching, and Ben showed up and he's like, oh, like it's cool that LSV is casting, because like it's going to be sweet to see him cast Paulo winning a pro tour.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, like obviously that guy's going to win.
Oh, yeah. See, he called it during top 8, though. I called it like day 1.
Sure.
Like,
you called it he would top 8. But like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a way riskier shot. That's a way riskier shot. But yeah, like, he's just unreal. I like said to Pete, though, that I think he'll end up being better than Finkel. Like, I know that's a bold claim, but
is it because he's so young and already has the kind of resume?
Because he's 4 Pro Tour top 8s away from having as many as Finkel, and he's 10 years younger.
Ugh.
Yeah. He also took like a couple years off where he wasn't playing seriously. Like he was playing, but he wasn't like trying. And
that's
then
funny to think about.
Over the last couple of years, he's just top 8'd 3 Pro Tours, like in the last couple of years. Like it's just ridiculous. Like I can't see him getting to a point where, because this is like his job too. Like I can't see him getting to a point where he isn't top 8ing more than Finkel eventually, if he stays with it. Because like the thing though is like obviously Finkel also keeps top 8ing, so but Finkel's like almost 40 or whatever. So like he's like 10 years older. Paulo's young, man. Like Paulo's 29.
Yeah, and like Magic isn't Finkel's full-time career
right
anymore.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like Paulo, I don't know if it is. I'm pretty sure it is Paulo's like full-time thing. Right?
I think so.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah, because the little while he took off was because he was in school. If
oh
I'm
yeah,
remembering
yeah,
correctly.
yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and
It's kind of weird that we know so much about this guy.
Yeah, well, because he talks about it in his articles. Actually,
Yeah.
that's why. And I remember watching him play when he was playing cat, like, less seriously, and he like wasn't as sharp. Actually, like he needs to be playing like consistently, and if he is, though, he's unreal, right? So, yeah, it's just gonna be like I actually think that he might end up with the most PT top 8s of all time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does, because he top 8s 1 in 5 Pro Tours he plays in.
Actually?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Dude, his win percentage at the Pro Tour is like absurd. It's so high. It's something like 24%, or sorry, 19%.
24.
Sorry, 19% of Pro Tours he plays in, he top 8s. No, not his win percentage.
Oh,
His
yeah.
win percentage is close to 70%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is like,
That's unbelievable.
it's not realistic at all.
No.
Like, it's like so high. Yeah, he's foolish. Like, yeah. So I like that. That's why I say like I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to a point and like, man, even think like how prepared he was for this top 8. Look at his sideboard.
Oh yeah, his sideboard is like hands down like the best one I've seen.
It's like
from
13
Mono.
cards for the mirror.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's kind of how a lot of the sideboards were too. Like,
But his was so good.
yeah, like Sam Black's sideboard was like 15 cards for the mirror.
Yeah.
So, and even in his article, he said like, yeah, my plan is to swap 15 cards when I'm playing the mirror match. But yeah, Apollo's was hands down the best suited
Sand Strangler
for sure.
was like unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's such good tech for the mirror. Such good tech. Like, Paulo came so prepared. He clearly knew what he was doing. Like, played great. Although we'll get to it in the blowout. He actually shouldn't have won this Pro Tour. Like, actually, he should have lost in the semis.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that later.
So like,
Luck and
looking
skill.
at how many people brought mono red this weekend and looking at kind of the metagame as a whole, why do you guys think so many people chose mono red? I'm curious as to whether you guys read articles about it or what you guys think.
I didn't really read anything about it. My reaction was that, as I mentioned, like because this is a mono red deck with so many choices, because it's a mono red deck that rewards you for like playing super tight and like lining up the game so that you can kill your opponent, like knowing when to exert Glorybringer rather than get in for the next turn. Also, all these like little things allows like the better players to optimize this deck like very, very well while playing it. And it was also just like a clearly good deck that if other people's decks like weren't as tested or if they didn't have as much time invested in playing specifically against red, like if they've been testing a bunch of various matchups, their sideboard might not be as good as necessary, which we kind of saw. Like people showed up with blue-red control. Like you didn't bring blue-red control if you were expecting this much red.
Yeah,
or you're just a diehard fan of control.
From the articles I've read and kind of consensus amongst what all the pro teams thought, like a lot of the conclusions they came to were like blue-red didn't really beat anything. Like black-green decks and Mardu were fine, but nothing, like it wasn't hands over, like whatever the phrase is. It wasn't like by far the best strategy. Mono red was good and was putting up a lot of good like results online, but it's like super exploitable. Like a lot of shitty cards in that deck. You know, it's like you were saying earlier, Adam. It's very beatable deck.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like there's,
but you have to know, like you have to know that it's coming.
Yeah, and like
and even then, you're not crumpling it.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's a lot of hype about God Pharaoh's gift decks going into the weekend, and that like that deck preys upon decks that prey upon mono red, but mono red just kicks the shit out of it.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like Jerry Thompson or like I think it was the Game Podcast, they were talking about like the God Pharaoh's gift deck being very good versus mono red.
Yeah,
which I could see only if you tune it so heavily that you sacrifice other matchups. But and also like I don't know, people were saying this, but like even Ron, like a friend of ours, has been playing a ton of mono red on Magic Online. He's like, I'm like 10-0 in games or whatever, like against God Pharaoh's gift. He's like, the last opponent I beat, I killed him on turn 5, and he messaged me in chat saying that he had his God draw versus me, and I still smashed him. Like,
yeah, so that's how it's just playing out. God Pharaoh's gift, like it can beat up the decks that beat mono red, but it can't beat mono red. So it didn't really have a good showing at all.
But it might now, right? That's what you're saying. Like
maybe, yeah, like it still has hope for the future. But like the problem with that deck is like it's only a slight favorite against other kind of top dogs in the format, like Mardu and Black Green game 1. But once they have access to Graveyard Hate, like that matchup does not get good for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's kind of in a rough spot at the moment. But then other than that, like what else came? Like Ramp was kind of a question mark. I still don't think people have really figured out the best version for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there were Ramp decks that barely missed the top 8. Like you said, Ramp was so close to top 8.
And they were
that's why I said I wouldn't be surprised if one top 8'd last week on the podcast.
Yeah, and I think
it's all about cause return.
Yeah, you need to be playing cause return. I don't think you can survive playing Sweltering Suns. Well, if you're expecting a lot of red, that could change. But
here's the thing, though. I was thinking about this, why? Because and you're asking, why would teams play mono red, right? Why? So, this is a good thing for listeners, to understand. I think who haven't really played aggro decks or are newer, but even people who have, this is a reminder. Historically speaking, if you went Bowman Courier into 2-drop into 2-drop 1-drop Smash You, and you got cause return, you're dead. As an aggro deck, you can't come back from that. But this mono red deck is okay, hazard it, attack you for 5, right? And then start burning you out with lands and any top decks I have from hazard it. They can beat a cause return, they easily beat a cause return. So I think that's why pro players would have also chosen this deck is the reach it has and the resiliency it has for it. Kind of what I'm getting at is this red deck kind of takes away some of the biggest downsides to playing low to the ground, go wide aggressive red decks because you don't get punished for dumping your hand. In fact, you're supposed to, because then you have time to activate Ramunap, to use Hazoret. You know what I mean? You can get Wrathed and not lose on the spot. Yeah. And also you have a bunch of haste creatures. The deck has 20 haste creatures, so you just top an Crap Crasher and you're back in it.
Sorcery speed Wraths aren't good enough.
Right. And even the instant speed, you can play around it, you can wait, but you can also just dump if you need. If your hand allows you to, you can have draws where you can just dump your hand of early creatures and they cause return you, and you don't really care.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason the deck's so good is that historically speaking, aggro decks that dump the board and then get 6 for 1 on a Wrath lose, obviously.
Yeah. And also mono red has always had the problem kind of just getting brick walled by a 4/4 or something,
Well, yeah, now that can't block,
Yeah, they have so many creatures that kind of just get around.
Just falter effects.
Yeah. So, but yeah, aside from that, a lot of people brought zombies, which was definitely a good call. There was a lot of good records from zombie decks. But yeah, again, zombies, it's a solid deck, but again, very exploitable.
This is why I thought the Pro Tour was so great, and also I think Standard is in an excellent place because of this. The top decks are beatable.
Yeah.
Let's say the top 3 decks are probably Black Green of various builds, Mono Red, and Zombies.
Yeah.
Right? These are all beatable decks. These are all decks that you expect to play against, have played at FNM and have beaten them even with your brew. You know what I mean? You can beat, you can play almost anything and beat these decks. You can beat them. It's not you have to play against Saheeli, Felidar Guardian. And if you don't have answers and ways to interact, you're just dead. They're just going to turn for you.
And there are ways to beat this deck with current existing decks already. One of the some articles I've read and just from here uncovered, Temur Energy does not have a good mono red matchup.
Oh God, no.
But it has a card access to a card like Whirler Virtuoso, which it has really stopped playing, but that card is very good against mono red.
Oh, it's excellent.
So it's very easy for Temur Energies to tune their
They just stopped playing it because Whirler Virtuoso wasn't good at the time.
Yeah, but now is definitely a good time for that card to come back, for sure.
Yeah.
And, Temur, the individual cards in Temur Energy are just so good. You could play that deck pretty much any time and it's still, viable.
Yeah, it's a fine deck. I don't think it's great, but it's not a deck that is bad and it's gonna be bad because it's just a mid-range deck with a bunch of good cards.
Exactly.
Good removal, good creatures.
Yeah.
You can play whatever you want.
Yeah, well, almost anything. I would say I wouldn't be sleeving up a control deck, really.
I disagree.
Cam played one on Saturday. You top 8'd the open, right?
Yeah. I went 4-1 in standard. And then
playing Grixis.
Yeah, playing
Grixis
Grixis
control
control
that we were talking. Him and I had been like kind of talking about like
because we had been like watching the Pro Tour, then you went to sleep and it was like 3 a.m. and I was tanking over like, do I just play blue red or like do I want the black? And then I like changed the mana base a bit and like switched some cards around and ended up playing Grixis. And yeah, it was like really good because of the black, because I was like worried about red. Yeah, so I had Liliana to like answer the last hope to answer a lot of the X1s and like slow down the red decks. And then in my sideboard, I just had 2 Grasp, 2 Kalitas, 2 Essence Extraction, some Cause Returns, just a bunch of hate for against the red deck and like enough life gain to sort of offset their lands. And then I was able to like Gearhulk them out. So
yeah. Gearhulk's definitely like worse than it was, but like people, I think that its demise has like been greatly exaggerated, right? Like people are like, Gearhulk's dead, like even articles, right? Or like, Gearhulk's like, you can't, like Torrential Gearhulk, you can't play it anymore. And it's like, yeah, but you still got the Glimmer. And they still had to use the removal spell. Like, you're equal on mana, actually. If they abrade your Torrential Gearhulk, you're equal on mana and up card. Like, up a card.
And like, I did take down Lily and get back Torrential Gearhulks like a few times, and that was always sweet and like backbreaking for your opponent, so...
Yeah, like it definitely exaggerated that Torrential Gearhulk is like dead because of like a braid, right? Like,
but yeah, like
not.
How did you find your mana base though? Because like
it was fine.
This is a funny story actually, because like people would like yell at Cam, and like when we were talking about Grixis, people were like mana's unplayable, like blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I ran into like a bunch of hate from people before when I even just started mentioning like, I kind of want to play Grixis because like I think Lily's good.
Because
like,
because I remember on the podcast last week, like
this.
we were both like, oh, we're both interested in like a Grixis deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a bunch of people started yelling at me like, you'll never make it work. The mana is terrible. You just need to play the fast lands. Like you have to play Jeskai or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll like try it out. And it was actually fine. I played 5 cycle lands, 4 Spirebluff Canal, and then a mix of Foreboding Runes and Choked Estuary, the reveal lands from Shadows.
Yeah.
And between the cycle lands and the basics, you have so many cards with the basic type that on the early turns, those are also basically just fast lands. And so I think the mana was the same as Jeskai.
Yeah, his mana was, we played a bunch of games, like
it was fine.
He crumbled me. Like I was playing Monument versus him and like I got annihilated. Like I couldn't win. And, like so my draws were pretty bad, but like
your deck was base black, blue?
Red, basically. You had to add blue sources. Well, once you tuned it, you had to add some blue sources.
I had to add some blue sources.
Because it was like basically black-red control splashing like Torrential and Glimmer.
Yeah. But I added some more blue cards and like some blue sources, and I would say that now it's fairly solidly 3 colors.
Like, but people were saying on like other like some pro players on like podcasts, like the game podcasts and stuff, like they were saying also that they thought black-red control, like the kind of, you know, Kalitas, Chandras, like were good versus aggro.
Yeah. That's not a surprise to me at all.
Right. Like those are the kind of decks are built to beat
the
aggro.
deck that would play Magma Spray, Grasp of Darkness,
Chandra, right. Pretty good against the
all these cards that are insane against mono red.
Yeah. And like the thing is, and if blue red control doesn't have a good matchup against anything, then that is a good choice because the black red control decks are never ever beating Torrential Gearhulk decks. Right? Like they can't. It is a joke. Like
it's so easy.
Yeah, it's hilarious how bad. Like they can bring as many transgresses and sideboard hate cards they want. It doesn't matter. All their cards suck versus you. Like they just have like 20 main deck cards that are dead against you.
Yeah,
they can't bring in enough cards that matter. So, but if blue-red control decks aren't great, then like decks like black-red mid-range control like are excellent choices against mono-red, and that deck's actually pretty good against zombies too, right? So.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, that deck's good against zombies, but like I think control also has a better zombies matchup. Like I played zombies twice, and that matchup seemed very easy. And then even in the top 8, like Phil also top 8'd playing zombies, and I squeaked in on 8th, and he was first. So we were paired, and he's like, "Oh, why did I have to get paired against you?" You're like my only potential bad matchup, the like Magma Spray control deck, because everybody else was playing like mono red and stuff. So if we're expecting more zombies in reaction to mono red, I think like a generic control deck gets better.
Yeah.
Because like this deck had a very good zombies matchup.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because you had a Braids, Fatal Push, Grasp, right? Like,
it was like Harness Lightning, a Braid, and then...
those are like excellent against zombies because you want to be able to do 3 damage.
Right, and I had like, main deck Yahenni's expertise as well to like wrath away their stuff. And even just Liliana, like you don't have to worry about blocking or killing the Relentless Dead and them getting any activations off it. If it's a 0-1, like you just tick up on it and ignore it.
Yeah, and also just pinging off Crypt Breakers, like all the threatening cards you can just clean up with Lily.
And I think you have a way better matchup than a black-red control deck would have, because they also rely on like Liliana's Mastery, and you just get to negate it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you were pretty happy with how your deck performed then?
Yeah, deck was sweet. And I also just really like playing control decks, so
yeah.
I think that's just a kind of testament though that like knowing now that the metagame is known, right? Like because this is also like the Pro Tour defined the metagame like heavily, but in a good way, I think. Like this is like a very healthy standard. Like because like we already see it shifting. Like I think there's a lot of ways you can tune your deck. And I think like you said, like the God Pharaoh's deck, can start seeing play in the future because it can tune to be, known decks. Like you can kind of play whatever you want, and you can tune your deck to, play whatever you want. Like I think like before we kind of move off the Pro Tour too, like even limited feels like this now. Like
this limited format was surprisingly open in like its viable strategies.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
like
there were blue-red aggro decks performing well in limited. There were sandworm convergence decks doing well in limited. There were black-white mid-range decks doing well. There were the zombie decks. There were just everything all over the place. There was Sam Black's whatever he played, 4-color everything deck.
Yeah, this is actually usually when I watch the Pro Tour, like if I miss limited rounds, I'm not that too upset. I usually don't go back and watch them. This is the first one where I've gone back and I'm rewatching all of them because this limited format is sweet. It's super fun to watch the drafts. I think it's like awesome games.
Yeah, the gameplay is sweet. Like you can do so many different things. Like last night, I first picked Spellweaver Eternal.
That's defendable.
The blue mana, the blue like the two.
I know what it is, but why?
Like, good card, nuts.
It's one of the best cards in the set.
Yeah, the card's actually like nuts. Yeah, because like if it gets in for 2, like then it means it's automatically getting in for 4. Like, and has prowess. Like, yeah, you just like that card's really good. Like, and the rare was garbage, and like the uncommons like weren't great either. And I was just kind of like, this is the only. It was actually the only blue card in the pack.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'll just take this and cut blue. I mean, it didn't matter because like 4 other people at my table went blue for no reason, but
like, yeah, even on top of that, like it's sort of the general consensus that blue-red spells is the best deck in the format. And I think the best blue-red decks have like 3 or 4 Spellweaver Eternals.
Yeah, card's really good.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, like you can do whatever you want. Like you can like Martin used it like 3-0 with like Sandworm Convergence. Like, you can play anything. Like Sam Black's deck though, if you want to go watch like a crazy deck from the Pro Tour, like his deck's ridiculous.
4-color, not black with like it was the blue-red. Like it was all over the place.
Yeah, well, it is kind of what I said the week before though, right? About like the non-blue-red decks and stuff. Like they're 4-color green. Like green decks are 4 colors.
Yeah.
Right. They have fixing, and he had the thing like the Crucible Worlds on a creature where you can play Evolving Wilds from your graveyard and stuff.
Oh
like,
yeah.
That's how he was.
Excavator.
Yeah, ramming up Excavator.
And he's playing at least 2 mana lists in his deck too.
Oh yeah, that's going deep. But like when you're playing 4 colors, like
that card's actually a lot better in this format than I think a lot of people give it credit for.
Oh yeah, like I would never have played it in Amonkhet.
No.
Like Amonkhet sealed or draft. Like if it was in the set, I'm saying. Like I would never have played it because that format was way too like streamlined and focused, and the archetypes were so determined that you couldn't get away with like shenanigans like that. Like you're just getting pounded. But now, like you can get away with some crazy stuff. So draft is like sweet. Limited is sweet. Like you can do whatever you want. Yeah, so it's like a good like. It feels like for the first time in a long time, like it's kind of like an open place, like both in limited and standard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like healthy. I'm excited just about playing Magic in general.
All the relevant formats are good.
Yeah. Hey, like Legacy, Pro Tour format.
Oh yeah. Modern also.
Modern's been in a good place for a while. I've been saying this ever since the rise of Death Shadow. I think the rise of Death Shadow.
I don't think we've actually mentioned this on the podcast, but there is actual like a modern Pro Tour next year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
that's back.
But like, I think Modern is actually okay. Here's the thing, though. I think and I've been saying this on the podcast for some time, that I think Modern is actually in a very good place, and I think the games are enjoyable, and I think that has a lot to do with Death Shadow being the best deck. Like, I think that's a good thing, because creature decks being the best decks is good because you can interact. And
okay.
Fine.
So then,
but that's not going to be the case. There is no way that after a Modern Pro Tour it isn't just destroyed again.
Really? You think so?
Every time that's been the case every single time. Every single time there's been a Modern Pro Tour, it's like they've had to ban something in Modern. It's gotten like a stagnant metagame. Like
You might be right, actually.
I am right.
I was trying to think, like, the last one we had was Eldrazi Winter. The one before that was won by Splinter Twin.
And then Pod
before that. Yeah.
It's not a good look. Like
Yeah.
it's not a good look. Like whenever Modern, that's why they got rid of Modern at the Pro Tour because of this. Because every time like pros would like break it and like they would shape the metagame so heavily that it made Modern stagnant and terrible. Like the fact that Modern isn't a Pro Tour format is a good thing. It sucks because like all Modern fans, of which I am now one, but I don't think the same as the rest of them. Like they all think that, like, you'll hear it all the time. Like you see on Twitch, like, bring back Modern Pro Tours, like, wow, wow, wow. And like all the rabble want Modern Pro Tours without understanding that the reason their format is good and enjoyable
is because there is no Modern Pro Tour.
Is because there's no Modern Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to lead to bannings and stuff. Like, that's what happens. Like, Modern's in a safe, healthy place right now. Like, there's a good chance that a Pro Tour leads it to a bad place.
I guess we'll find out what happens and you can tell everyone you told you so.
Like, you're out of your mind if you don't think it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like, if you don't think that Modern's going to get destroyed from a Modern Pro Tour, like, you're out of your mind. That's just not, that's not going to become apparently like a stagnant and broken format. Like, I'm sorry.
Did they actually make an announcement as to why they brought it back? Because from everything I read, they just kind of like, hey, it's back, but didn't actually say anything about it.
I think it's mostly, I think it's mostly just because of like the 20th anniversary thing. Right? They're trying to have like diversity. That's why like there's the team format that is like legacy.
Yeah, okay.
I think that the 20th, like I think they're doing a test run basically, and they're using, and also like just to kind of celebrate the diversity of Magic formats, they're having like a Modern Pro Tour. I think that's probably why. I don't know if it's going to be like consistently back on the Pro Tour, but
I hope not.
I hope not as well. I don't mind it being Grand Prix like all the time. I don't mind Modern Grand Prix like whenever. I don't care. But I think that the format, both Legacy and Modern, are not sustainable as Pro Tour formats for a variety of reasons. Like not just because of like people breaking the metagame. Like for Legacy, like it's gonna be a train wreck. It's just like, okay, well, are we gonna ban Brainstorm yet? Like that's all it's gonna be on coverage is people casting Brainstorm. Like it's gonna suck. And like Legacy's not fun to watch actually. Like unless you're very invested in it, because you're just watching people shuffle and put back cards on top of their library in different orders.
Yeah.
Like
you're right. Yeah.
Right? Like it's not a fun format to watch. I love Legacy. Like I love playing Legacy, but it's not fun to watch. It's a horrible viewing experience. There's a reason Star City Games, when they used to have the Saturday and Sunday tournaments, like it used to not be like a Grand Prix format, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember.
And there's a reason they got rid of Legacy. There's a reason they stopped having Legacy. There was no viewers.
Exactly.
They even said so. Like they were like, look, I know that you guys all love Legacy and stuff, like whoever's vocalized about it, but it's a fact that we get a quarter of the viewers for Legacy that we do for any other format. Like you guys might be fanatic about it, but that doesn't mean that other people are. Like people don't like watching people rearrange their deck, right? Like it's not fun to watch. And Modern actually also suffers from similar problems, increasingly so with Death Shadow. Like I think it's fun again to play and I like the format, but Death Shadow just means you're shuffling a lot and like looking at hands, like thought seizing and clay, right? Like it's very boring to watch, like people writing down each other's hand. Like these aren't fun games to watch. Like this is a fact. Like it's a bad viewer experience. So
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I had like a whole rant about like why it's bad, but like the formats are good from a play perspective, but like Standard is, I think, the best viewing experience. Like,
sure,
I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know why they brought it back. Is what I'm getting at.
Back onto like Standard and stuff. Going forward, looking at the information we've got from the Pro Tour and the information from Magic Online, how do you tune your decks going forward? Like, what are the things you want to be thinking about if you're tuning your deck based on Pro Tour information?
Yeah, so this was sort of the topic we wanted to talk about was tuning in particular because of my sort of adventures through building a Grixis control deck. I had first like just brainstormed a list and like it was, 3 Lilianas because I wanted to try her out and like a bunch of removal spells, Gearhulk Glimmer because that's obvious, and then like a mana base that I thought would be fine. And I tested it a bit and played it at some weaknet events and I was going like 2-2 and I was like losing games because I would not find a Gearhulk on time and just sort of peter out and die, or like I missed blue mana in one game. And so like I think it would be very easy for a lot of people to have like built a deck, played it a bunch of times, and it be medium, and they think like, oh, everyone was right, the mana can't work, and like this archetype isn't good. But what I did instead was I went and looked at a bunch of control lists online at like MTG Goldfish. I looked at a bunch of blue-red control lists. There was one Grixis list, and I just went through counting like, how many draw spells is this guy playing? How many draw spells is this person playing? How many threats does this one have? How many removal spells? And like sort of made these averages. And it was like, on average, 7 draw spells. I only had 4. On average, 11 removal spells. I had 15. And so because my deck was sort of unbalanced in this way, I made some changes so that I had more draw spells and had less removal and had a less threat and like a more blue mana. And I just made these little tweaks to the numbers in the deck, not any of the card choices really or strategy. And then played it at the Tower Open, and like it just ran very, very well. It turns out that you needed that many draw spells to hit your land drops and find the Gear Hulks, and then you don't sort of peter out as much. And it's fine that you have less removal spells because you're drawing more cards. You find the same number in a game. And so, yeah, after like properly tuning the deck, it ran very well.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, and this is like kind of goes back to everything we talked about today, which was like all like Paulo had tuned his sideboard to be able to beat the meta he knew or expected to be there, right? Like everyone did this. Like this is why zombies showed up playing like 4 Grasp, 4 Dark Salvation, because they knew it had a good mono red matchup. And they knew like it's not always about abandoning your deck. Like you can play, like we had like an episode we like jokingly titled like pet decking, right?
Yeah,
like, you can play like whatever pet deck you want, like, and that's kind of what we've been getting at throughout this whole episode. Like you can play whatever deck you want in this standard format, but like you just need to tune. Like you don't have to give up on it. Like you don't have to say like, my like blue black reanimator list has a bad mono red matchup, so I can't play it anymore. Like, well, okay, like also like you have to realize like people are going to be playing zombies to beat mono red, so like you probably actually have a good zombies matchup. So like what are the card choices you need? Like how do you make yourself better against mono red? Like you don't have to give up on your deck. You just tune in, like see what other people were doing. Like you don't have to change your card choices like you said, but just see the kind of general like structure other people have been successful with.
Yeah.
Like, and so I was just gonna say, like you mentioned the same thing with limited, like
yeah. Well, just like to finish answering Stelly's question of like what are you gonna play in standard going forward and how do you tune your deck? Since this standard has best decks that are beatable, which is what Adam has been saying, if you think you have a card in mind that beats them, say you want to play Kalidas, or say you want to play Sunscorch Champion, or you want to play Gisela because she gains a bunch of life and you want to Brazella people, you can do this. Just make sure that whatever shell you build that has this card in it, if you're playing Control Gisela, sure, compare it to other control decks. If you're playing Tempo Aggro Gisela with similar to Blue-White Monument, compare it to Blue-White Monument decks. Like, how many removal spells are they playing? Play a similar number. How many lands are they playing? Play a similar number. And I think a lot of like brews will seem worse if you like have too many removal. Like an example that I kept bringing up was, Kalidas is good against mono red, and so I want to play like a mono black aggro, curving like Gifted Aetherborn and Glint Sleeves into Kalidas, because that's just so much life gain. How can mono red ever win? And I'll play Grasp. But then it would also be very easy to say, I'm worried about mono red and they're very aggressive, so I'm going to play like 4 Grasps, 4 Push, and a Murder. And then you just get crumpled by every other deck because you have too much removal in your aggro deck and you can't play aggro. But if you had compared this to like other aggro decks, and there will always be another deck in this archetype to compare it to, like Moto's massive and someone has done this before, then maybe your idea is not bad. You just have too many removal spells and you need to compare it to something.
Or your lands, like your mana base is built incorrectly.
Yeah, you compare it to a mana,
this is just like,
mana base.
I guess like we're just talking about like an efficient way to test going forward, right? Like I have this idea that I want to play, for example, like Brendan DeCandio at the Pro Tour was playing like 4 main board Sunscorch Champions in his Godpharaoh's Gift deck. Just 4 main because he expected mono red, right? Like he knew like this kind of thing, right? It's like, that's a good idea. Okay. And then he was like, okay, what are other, and he even talks about it in his deck tech. He's like, okay, so I looked at all these like Godpharaoh's Gift decks. Exactly. Like looked at every way they were built, how they did it. And he's like, and then I changed like this card because I wanted to play like Sunscorch Champion for the expected meta. So like he just tuned the deck to like adjust, but he still followed like everyone else like online, like what they were doing. He made a few other changes. I think he wasn't playing Gate to the Afterlife or whatever.
What?
Or like he would cut one major card. He was just playing Refurbish.
Oh, okay.
Because he would just get it back with Refurbish. Like Godpharaoh's Gift.
So you're saying he cut Gate to the Afterlife, so he couldn't search out
the Godpharaoh's
but
he would just pitch it.
Okay.
To like champion or mill it with whatever. But he was saying like, okay, and the other thing is like we're playing both Thraben Inspector and the Minister of Inquiries because they're both 1/2s for 1 mana, and that matters because they block. Like they block Earthshaker, Kenra, and Bomat Courier and stuff like that, right? Like, and they can trade. And they brick wall a Bomat Courier, like, and that matters.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that, right? Like, why do they have these creatures? Like, why are you playing this card? Like, they kind of knew going forward. So
Yeah.
I don't know, like going forward in standard, like for example, I was talking about how with Cam, how I want to play a blue-black Reanimator.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying like Phil was like laughing at me, like, why are you talking about some deck that can never beat mono red? And I was like, I don't think it's actually as bad as everyone thinks. Like, I think that it's just that historically, like when you've seen like Noxious Gearhulk decks, it's 1 Gearhulk. And I was like, but can these decks beat like an Ever After targeting 2 Noxious Gearhulks? Like, I don't think they can. I don't think any creature deck can, but you know, like if it hits a Glorybringer and like an Ankrop Crasher, like gain 6, like nice Chandra, these have menace, you know, like so I was like saying I don't think it has as bad a matchup. And then I randomly like saw a guy streaming on Twitch and he's playing the deck and he like went like 4-0 against mono red, like 8-0 in games. I was like, what? Like just because like he had a bunch of ways, like he had tuned his deck and I was like, okay, well, I need to gain life and I need to kill stuff. So he changed his deck to be able to do that. Like Reanimator, you would imagine, yeah, has a horrible matchup. Like the colors blue and black in general probably don't have a good mono red matchup. But you can tune your deck to be able to have a chance. Like he was playing mainboard Kalitas, like to fill in the 4-drop slot, right? Like he had a bunch of fatal pushes, like, but then his top end was so powerful that it went over the top of even their late game, which is like very powerful, right? So like you don't have to abandon strategies, but it helps to go look at what other people are doing and tune. And like you can do the exact same thing in limited, like by watching the Pro Tour. And this is why it's like useful to watch them and like fun to watch them. Because in limited, you were even talking about like you had previously drafted Sandworm Convergence decks, and they weren't good.
Yeah, like that was my sort of second thought to this whole looking at other decks to tune yours. I had drafted a Sandworm Convergence deck a couple times, maybe once or twice, and often found myself in the bind of I have this Sandworm Convergence in hand, and so I would like to top deck lands so that I can cast it, but I can't top deck lands or I'll die because my opponent's doing anything. And so it just like seemed like it wasn't viable, but it was probably that I had too many ramp spells or I didn't have enough creatures, and like I could now go back and watch the Pro Tour and see if Martin Yuza ever talked about his draft, see what his mix of cards were, because he like successfully played Sandworm Convergence. And so I can then next time I want to draft this, if I open one or if I'm in a ramp archetype, I can base my picks to try and achieve the same balance that he played because I know that works.
Yeah, just like ramp spells to creatures to removal to whatever.
Right.
Like,
and this works with any of the like archetypes in this draft format. Like
how many 2-drops was he playing? Like
right. Like say you're starting to draft blue-red spells. You're noticing that it's open. Like, and you have in the back of your mind, you know, Paulo drafted this effectively and he had, you know, this many like cycle things. Like he passed a crash through once he had 2 of them. So I only need like 2 of that effect. He had this many 2-drops, like this many spells, this many creatures, and like you can even in limited base your deck construction off of successful versions of these archetypes.
Yeah, and they don't even have to have the same cards, just the same kind of general combination of types of cards, right? Like of spells, creatures, lands, like whatever. Like,
yeah, like an open fire is pretty much interchangeable with an abrade. Like
yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, one thing I thought was cool, like for example, like at the Pro Tour, someone was like saying they would take 2-drops over like Puncturing Blow. And they didn't really give the greatest explanation. But then I was talking to you about like why I agreed. And it was like, because this format is actually like so creature based and there's so much removal that you'd rather just play out creatures because like otherwise like you just get stranded with spot removal in your hand, and like Puncturing Blow like often just trades for a 3-drop. Like, and then that happened to me like all the time, like when I was playing. So yeah, like just looking at like a lot of these decks, even like I've noticed in this format, like the best performing decks are just loaded with creatures. Even though there's like a billion removal spells and wraths in this format, like people actually draft and prioritize creatures, the winning decks. Whether they know that's why or not isn't relevant, but like creatures, just having a bunch of like good, efficient, fast creatures seems to be like the best thing you can be doing, right?
And yeah, you can just sort of like sniff out when your opponent has a wrath and like not overcommit.
Like, oh man, that round 1 of the Pro Tour,
Mike Sigris versus Snapbangers, where he just wouldn't play out other stuff because he knew he had Hour of Revelation. Basically,
that game was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the very first draft. Like I think it's round 1, right?
Round 1,
very first round of the Pro Tour.
Yeah,
and like it's if you want to see a guy like immediately sniffing out a wrath, like go watch that game because like against basically any opponent would have fallen for it, but Mike Sigris just doesn't and wins a game I thought he had no right winning.
Yeah, like he held a mouth to feed and didn't until he had 7 mana to be able to cast both sides in one turn to draw like 6 cards.
Yeah.
Where he had multiple turns where he could have just played the front half of it and then played the back half of it next turn, but that would have been a window for his opponent to cast the hour. And because he was patient, he was able to cast both halves in one turn, draw 6 cards, and then the Hour of Revelation on the other side of the table didn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it was a sweet play. Like, it was a sweet game. Like, I actually thought that was one of the best games of the entire Pro Tour. Like, I thought Snapfingers like should have his problem.
He was way too patient.
Exactly. His problem was he didn't realize his opponent knew.
Yeah,
he didn't realize his opponent knew he had the Wrath.
Like. So when I was watching this, obviously the commentators were like, "Oh, Mike Sigler is such a good player, like crazy. He sniffs out the Wrath." And I actually don't think that the black-white player, like he might have been a bit too patient at the end, but like when Mike Sigrist hit 7 lands and cast Mouth and then feed in the same turn, like, yeah, that's backbreaking, and like the black-white player was caught off guard by this. But if you like watch the black-white player, he keeps pulling like an Aven of Enduring Hope to the front of his hand, and he keeps like. He had 3 white sources, and 4 other swamps, and he just keeps waiting for the 4th white. So because he wants to Wrath and play the Aven in the same turn.
I know that's why. Yeah. I know that's why. But like,
and he just like missed on like 5 turns. But I think if in any of those previous turns was a Plains, then like Mike never wins that game.
No, I know, but that's easy mode.
Sure.
Like he wanted like Snapfingers was going for like the easy mode when to Wrath. Like,
all right, fair.
He should have known something was like. Like he was.
I definitely think he was a little too patient with.
But I agree. Like if he had drawn the Plains, it's like an easy mode win. He just
Mike
wins on the spot.
Still sort of sold it well too. Like he would play out another 2-drop. Like
that's what I'm getting at. Is that like Snapfinger's failure was to realize that Mike knew something was up.
Right.
Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Like what like how Snapfingers played it in vacuum is like fine. Like that he wanted to be able to Wrath and have a follow-up like solid flyer creature and win the game.
Yeah.
But like what he didn't realize was that like Sigrist also was probably aware he was gonna get Wrath at some point because they're in the same draft pod. He might have seen it. He might have known about the Hour of Revelation. Like there's a bunch of reasons. Like or you're just careful because there's a bajillion Wraths in this format. Like so like it was Anyway, it's an interesting game though to go watch.
Definitely worth going to watch if anyone for some reason hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, speaking of me wanting to play like some dumb blue-black reanimator deck, like I don't know where I'm going to go in Standard now. Like I for the first time in a long time want to just play like random decks. Like it's like Barnyard time again, man. Remember when I used to always play like because like for the last like year and a half, 2 years, I've just been like playing like net decks. I just like have been playing like I'll just play like a tier 1 deck. For like that's just what I've been doing for the last couple of years. But like if you remember before that, I used to play like crazy brews like all the time and do like pretty well with them actually. Like. I remember
the Barnyard.
Oh yeah, I remember the look on like Pete's face when I was like kicking his teeth with it. He was like so miserable, man. There was a mnemonic wall in that deck. It was awesome, man. Getting back Obsidat's aid because you just keep returning them and like recurring it.
Bad.
It was, dude. I would like often do well with that. I top 8 in a PTQ, like an old school PTQ with that deck. Not even
so bad,
dude. It was awesome. I just like smashed people, dude. I love that deck. It was so trolly.
You're the only person I've ever heard claim that deck was good. Anybody who knew you and watched you play it doesn't understand why you played it and tells me it's trash.
Yeah, but I kept beating them. So I mean, results-oriented thinking. They were just mad that they lost to trash.
Probably.
Like, actually, that's why. Because they would, like, lose to just garbage. That deck was actually good because its late game was unbeatable. That's why it was good. It had, like, a recursive, unbeatable late game. But it was like slow. It would win by like a damage a turn over like the course of like 14 turns. Like that's why people hated it. It was actually sweet.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
I didn't see any of the people I beat like doing well with it and like top 8ing PTQs, but whatever.
But yeah, I guess in summary, if you're going to play a brew or in Standard, or if you're going to play a brew in Limited, just base it off somebody else's brew that you've seen.
I remember I actually was when like Ben Moyer said like, yeah, you should like actually try to get on the Pro Tour. And it was early in playing, and I was like, all right, like I'll just like screw around this year. That I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, like I'll just screw around this year and like spend this year like playing Magic and like get on the Pro Tour. And I did. And it was in like the first year of me playing. And Ben, I remember, went on vacation, and he had said before he left, like, please, Adam, like, just start playing like tier 1, like play good decks, like play real decks. And he came back from vacation like 2 weeks later and like came into the tower, and I was like kicking Pete's teeth in with like this like trash brew of like garbage cards, and Ben was like, "Hey, good to see you." Like looked down at the table and just left. He didn't even like stay and talk to me because he was so mad I was playing some like dumpster brew again. And so what I'm saying is like, don't do what Cam said. Play your dumpster cards. I'm stoked. The standard format's wide open. I'm just gonna play garbage.
Yeah, no, play your cards. Play your whatever you think is sweet. But like play them in the correct number that someone else is like.
God, no, I'm not doing that.
Showing that will make a deck work well.
No, I'm playing garbage. I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
All right, better lucky than good.
Blowout of the week.
Whoa.
I'm sure everyone has already seen it if you watched the top 8 of the Pro Tour at all. But we had to make this one the blowout because it was just.
It's so grim. I feel so bad for him.
It's like not even a blow. Like it's just like a miss, like a punt.
It's a punt. It's not even a blow, but it's like
punt of the year.
It's literally the biggest punt I've ever seen on coverage.
You know those like cringe videos on YouTube that like you get really uncomfortable watching them and like you usually can't finish? Like I felt worse watching this.
So I yelled at my screen when I saw him do it for the first time.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was.
So basically in the semifinals, Yam Wing Chun is playing Paulo.
Game 5
for everything, and he's behind. And however, Paulo's very low on life, and Yam already has a burn spell in hand. And a hazard in play. If he top decks another burn spell, he just wins on the spot.
Well, he had to top deck exactly Incendiary Flow.
Yeah.
And he did.
He has Collective Defiance. He has 5 mana, right?
Yeah.
And he has Collective Defiance in hand. Paulo's at like 11.
Yes.
And so he needs to, top deck exactly Incendiary Flow so that the Hazoret, Collective Defiance, and Incendiary Flow are enough. Or he's at 12, sorry. That it's because Shock didn't do it.
Yeah.
That it's enough that it just kills him on the spot. And he top decks the only thing that will kill him, Incendiary Flow. And you can see he does the like slow reveal of what card he drew. And he starts like shaking, like looking at it. He's so excited.
Because he knew Incendiary Flow was his only out. And like, there it is.
And he drew it. He should win. Like he should be in the finals, not Paulo. And so he's so excited. I can't even, it's so bad.
He's so excited. He knows that like I cast these 2 spells and I attack with Hazoret and like that's Paulo's life total and like I win. Paulo's tapped out. There's nothing he can do. And he just picks up Hazoret and taps it.
And turns it sideways to attack.
And then you can see Paulo like stick his hand out and be like,
the commentators were like, no.
Yeah, everyone's like, no.
Yeah, Paulo sticks his hand out and he's like, Hazoret can't attack.
You have 2 cards in hand.
And like now you're in declare attackers.
And both those
you need both those cards to do 3 damage.
And they're both sorceries.
They're both sorcery and you need them to do 3, so you can't pitch them to Hazoret to only do 2, or you're dead on the crackback. And then he just starts like slamming the table. He's like very distraught, which understandably,
like he literally punted the
all
final,
you needed to do was cast one of them main, attack, cast one of them second main,
or just cast them both,
or cast them both. Yeah,
it was
flat. You don't even do anything. Just show your hand to Paulo. He'd probably concede.
Yeah, just show him both burn spells. Like it was so. I feel so bad for him because he literally like gave Paulo the win of a Pro Tour. Like he punted the semis. Like it's one of the craziest punts I've ever seen on camera. It's so bad. I feel so bad for him, but at the same time, like, hey, he's in the semis of Pro Tour. Like I don't feel that bad for him. So like,
he also like
if you happen to hear this, you send us your address and we'll mail you a foil.
I think like
oh my god, yeah. If for some reason anybody who listens to this podcast knows him, send this episode to him, get him to listen to it, and if he does and messages us, we will send him a foil hazard.
There was
I played against him before. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, there was a picture of him floating around Facebook afterwards of like him in his hotel room, and he's holding his like plaque that says like semifinalist, and he's holding a Collective Defiance and a Incendiary Flow. And then, like, laid out in front of him on his bed is, like, 300 Hazarets.
Yeah, it's like $3,000 in Hazarets or
it's
something.
just, like, so many Hazarets, and he's, like, holding the 2 cards, and he's like, yeah, even with all these Hazarets, I can't win a Pro Tour.
So, shout outs to him. Yeah. Like, I feel bad. Like, he's obviously, like, a very, very good player. Like, that's why I said I feel bad. Like, that's just a bummer. Like, it's just a mistake. So, like, even the best, like, even insane players make mistakes, man. Like, he's a very good player. It's just, like, he was excited, like, emotionally, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's a rough one.
It's hard. It was super hard to watch.
Yeah, it was
just talking about it makes me.
I know.
Gross.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for all joining the club this week. Make sure you check out wizardtower.com for all your Magic single needs. Free shipping on singles in Canada and the US. And however you listen to this podcast, whether it's on iTunes, Podbean, or your podcast app, leave us a review, rate our podcast, share it with your friends. Everything helps the podcast grow and reach new ears.
Thanks for listening.